Welcome to another edition of The Couch Attorney. Today, I want to talk about strategy over emotions. What we're going to take a look at is a confrontation between Black Lives Matter and Hillary Clinton about 4 years ago at one of her events while she was in the middle of her campaign. Now, Black Lives Matter had intended to come in through the regular entrance and get a good spot in the beginning and possibly interrupt her show, which is what they had been doing. And Hillary's people were smart to him and didn't let him come in through that entrance and put him up in the balcony. So I know they were hot about being up in the balcony, but what they didn't know is that Hillary had planned to come up there and give them a one-on-one. Now let's be frank and honest here. This should have been the President of the United States. So this was a chance to have a one-on-one with the President of the United States. Granted, they didn't know this was going to happen, but still, where's the strategy? Lots of emotion. I know we want to get our point across and we want to say what we got to say, but we got to have some strategy over emotion.
In this dialogue with you. But I think that a huge part of what you haven't said is you've offered a recognition that mass incarceration has not worked. And that is an unfortunate consequence of government practices that just didn't work. But the truth is that there's an extremely long history of unfortunate government practices that don't work, that particularly affect Black people and Black families. And until we as a country, and then the person who's in the seat that you seek, actually addresses the anti-Blackness current that is America's first drug. We're in a meeting about drugs, right? America's first drug is free Black labor and turning Black bodies into profit.
Okay, everything that he said up until this point, 100% accurate. All facts. But here's the bottom line. They're facts that everybody knows. Hillary knows that. She's in agreement. All you've gotten so far is head nods and agreement. Why? You got to be honest. A lot of this stuff is stuff that she's already said and acknowledged. But I know the need, the emotion, the want to confront and to get her to admit on camera that what she did in the 90s by signing the crime bill, which, by the way, a lot of people, almost everybody signed, that it led to mass incarceration and it did not help us. I got that. I know the need to want to confront, but we must also have strategy. Where is your line of questioning going? What's the point? Where is this leading to? She's in an uncomfortable position. Granted, she deserves to be there, but you also got to know your allies, and you got to have strategy.
And the mass incarceration system mirrors an awful lot like the prison plantation system. It's the same. It's a similar thread, right? And until someone takes that message and speaks that truth to white people in this country, so that we can actually take on anti-Blackness as a founding problem in this country, I don't believe that there's going to be a solution, because what the conversations that are happening now and why there's so much cohesion across the divide, the red side and the blue side, is because of money. Right? We're spending a lot of money on prisons. We're spending more money on prisons than we are on schools, right? But if we look at it from a lens of let's solve this financial problem, and we don't look at the greater bottom line that African Americans who are Americans are suffering at greater rates than most other people, every other people, for the length of this country, then it's not going to go away. It's just going to morph into something new and evolved. And I genuinely want to know, you and your family have been, in no uncertain way, partially responsible for.
Okay, how they say in boxing? Okay, Frank, now we're getting to the nitty gritty. After all of that preaching that you just did and giving her all of those facts that you know she knew, Now you're gonna totally confront her and put her back totally against the wall by saying you and your family are by on no certain terms responsible. Okay, again, where's the strategy? Where are you going with this? I know the emotion. I know you want to confront, but what is your end result? Is it to make her uncomfortable in front of this room full of white people in the middle of her campaign? What do you expect her to say? I don't get it.
More than most. There may have been unintended consequences, but now that you understand the consequences, what in your heart has changed?
He just asked her what in her heart has changed. Now, how is she supposed to answer that question? Is she supposed to say, oh, well, back in the 90s, I was really racist and I didn't care about you black folks, but now I got more black friends and I went to black rehab and now I get it, I get it. Now I'm with you, I'm with you. What was she supposed to say? You totally got her backed against the wall for what? Just to get her to admit that she fucked up? She's already admitted that she's fucked up. You have a one-on-one right now with what should have been the President of the United States, and you haven't come with any agenda or proposal. Where is the strategy?
It's going to change the direction of this country. Like what in you, like not your platform, not what you're supposed to say. Like how do you actually feel that's different than you did before?
Now, what he just said there was pretty interesting because he asked her to say, to be real, to give us the real Hillary. And that was one of the major parts of her campaign that didn't resonate. People didn't feel like they knew the real Hillary, that they were getting what she really felt. I got that. Good question if you're a reporter. But how does that help your strategy?
What were the mistakes? And how can those mistakes that you made be lessons for all of America for a moment of reflection on how we treat black people in this country?
I just want to, and I apologize, we have a bunch
I would
of people-
really love to allow
Of
her
course.
to answer
Yeah, no,
this question.
I'm not
and
stopping.
we've worked really hard. We've driven so many hours.
We're not stopping.
And-
I'm just letting you guys know before, because we've got a couple more minutes. We still have more people in the
We have
overflow
other
that are
people
waiting.
who are
So
also in overflow,
I'm not
so
interrupting
we're-
what you're about to say. I just wanted to sort of give you guys a heads up on timing. So
Yeah, so-
we've got limited time.
Well, obviously, it's a very thoughtful question. It deserves a thoughtful answer. And I can only tell you that I feel very committed to and responsible for doing whatever I can. I've spent most of my adult life focused on kids through the Children's Defense Fund and other efforts to try to give kids, particularly poor kids, particularly black kids and Hispanic kids, the same chance to live up to their own God-given potential as any other kid. That's where I've been focused. And I think that there has to be a reckoning. I agree with that. But I also think there has to be some positive vision and plan that you can move people toward. I mean, once you say, this country has still not recovered from its original sin, which is true. Once you say that, then the next question by people who are on the sidelines, which is the vast majority of Americans, the next question is, well, so what do you want me to do about it? What am I supposed to do about it? That's what I'm trying to put together in a way that I can explain it and I can sell it. Because in politics, if you can't explain it and you can't sell it, it stays on the shelf. And this is now a moment in time, just like the civil rights movement or the women's movement or the gay rights movement or a lot of other movements reached a point in time. The people behind that consciousness raising and advocacy, they had a plan ready to go. So that when you turn to, the women's movement, we want to pass this and we want to pass that and we want to do this. Problems are not all taken care of, we know that. Obviously, I know more about the civil rights movement in the old days because I had a lot of involvement in working with people. So they had a plan, this piece of legislation, this court case we're going to make, et cetera, et cetera. Same with the gay rights movement. You know, we're sick of homophobia, we're sick of being discriminated against, we want marriage equality, and we're starting in the States, and we're going to keep going until we get it at the highest court of the land. So all I'm saying is your analysis is totally fair. It's historically fair, it's psychologically fair, it's economically fair. But you're going to have to come together as a movement and say, here's what we want done about it. Because you can get lip service from as many white people as you can pack into Yankee Stadium and a million more like it, who are going to say, oh, we get it, we're going to be nicer, okay? That's not enough, at least in my book. That's not.
Okay, what did she just tell you right there? That first of all, that was the real Hillary, okay? He asked for real Hillary, and that's about as real as it gets. I know it still sounds robotic at times, but that was real Hillary. And she gave some really good advice. What she did right there, what I got from that was full acknowledgement. She said, everything you said is valid. I take responsibility. There needs to be a reckoning. And she said, this is the point. But she also said, where's the plan? You got to come to me with something. Just like every other movement, they had a plan, they had legislation, they had bills, ideas that they wanted, and they wanted it now. You got a lot of emotion, but where's your plan? You got to come together. Now, what plan could they have had? Here's one that I could think of is now coming up, and I said this years ago when I first saw this video. You should have come to her and said, listen, on camera, will you agree that anytime there's a police-involved shooting or killing, that it needs to be investigated by an independent prosecutor, not the prosecutor that the police work with every day, that's then supposed to be charged with prosecuting their coworkers? Will you agree that we need a special prosecutor from the DOJ, the Department of Justice, to step in? Getting her to say agree with that or a proposal like that on camera is huge. Now let's continue. But I got what she was saying. I don't know if y'all got it, but I got it.
How I see politics. So the consciousness raising, the advocacy, the passion, the youth of your movement is so critical. But now all I'm suggesting is, even for us sinners, find some common ground on agendas that can make a difference right here and now in people's lives. And that's what I would love to, have your thoughts about, because that's what I'm trying to figure out how to do. So yeah, deal with mass incarceration. It's not just an economic issue, although I grant you, some people see it like that. But it's more than that. I think there is a sense like, low-level offenders, disparity in treatment, we got to do something about that. I think that a lot of the issues about housing and about job opportunities, ban the box, a lot of these things, let's get an agenda that addresses as much of the problem as we can. Because then you can be for something, in addition to getting people to have to admit that they're part of a long history in our country of, either proposing, supporting, condoning discrimination, segregation, etc. Now, what do we do next? And that's what I'm trying to figure out in my campaign.
Okay, Hillary gave her closing argument. She gave her support. She gave her acknowledgments. And you're going to hear his response. He's not satisfied. And in that, you're going to get some more real Hillary.
Madam Secretary,
Respect
we
to
do
you.
really have to
So,
go. Thank you.
The piece that's most important, and I stand here in your space, and I say this as respectfully as I can, but if you don't tell black people what we need to do, then we won't tell you all what you need to do.
Well, I'm not telling you, I'm just telling you to tell me.
What I mean to say is that this is and has always been a white problem of violence. it's not, there's not much that we can do to stop the violence against us.
Well, if
And
that
it's
is.
a conversation that I push
Okay,
back.
I understand what
And
you're saying.
Also respectfully,
Yeah, well, respectfully, if that is your position, then I will talk only to white people about how we are going to deal with
That's
the
not what I
very
mean.
real
That's
problems.
not what I mean. That's not what I mean.
No.
But like what I'm saying is what you just said
Mm-hmm.
was a form of victim blaming, right? You were saying that what the Black Lives Matter movement needs
Yeah.
to do to change white hearts is
No,
to
I'm not
come
talking
up
about,
with a policy
look, I don't
change.
believe you change hearts. I believe you change laws, you change allocation of resources, you change the way systems operate.
Now that's the core of what I'm saying. Strategy over emotion. You are not going to change hearts. You change the law. You reallocate the funds. Then if you change some hearts, okay, that's cool. But we going to change them laws. Give me something.
You're not going to change every heart. You're not. But at the end of the day, we can do a whole lot to change some hearts and change some systems and create more opportunities for people who deserve to have them, to live up to their own God-given potential, to live safely without fear of violence in their own communities, to have a decent school, to have a decent house, to have a decent future. So we can do it one of many ways. You know, you can keep the movement going, which you have started, and through it, you may actually change some hearts. But if that's all that happens, we'll be back here in 10 years having the same conversation. Because we will not have all of the changes that you deserve to see happen in your lifetime because of your willingness to get out there and talk about this.
Thank you.
Thanks, we got to go this way.
Boom. There you have it. There's your 15 minutes with what could have been the President of the United States. And what proposal did we give her? None. But she said some real stuff. She said we'll be right back here in 10 years if all we do is keep talking and have no strategy.
Find a way to do this.
Appreciate it.
Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to do my part in any way that I can.
And I'm sure, thank you.
Thank you very much.